We just had a good discussion on taxes. Obviously, that all affects the markets, which are closed today, but investors heading into the long weekend with their sights set not only on whether tax reform gets done, but what may happen overseas, Afghanistan, North Korea, Syria, Russia. Yet with all that's going on and all that's in the news, stocks, when you think about it, they're still relatively close to record levels. If these diplomatic issues keep piling up, though, does that mean stocks will really make a serious turn to the downside? Fox Business Network's Jerry Willis is here. We also have former Navy SEAL turned money manager Michael Zapata here in the studio with us, and market watcher Jason Meister. Good to see everybody here on Good Friday. As we say, we don't have markets to talk about. But Michael, why don't we start with you on where we are? What do you think in terms of everything that's hanging over this market, that it's up, 3.5%, whatever it is, since Inauguration Day?
Thanks, Con. Well, I think it's a little concerning. The market multiples are elevated, and they've become more so since the election.
So the risk is to the downside?
I think the risk is absolutely to the downside.
Okay, and what worries you most before we go to everybody else?
What worries me most is the domestic concern of tax reform taking longer than most people expect,
right?
Not to the amplitude that most people will expect.
What we were just talking about with growth.
Right, and then you have a potential for increased global conflicts. North Korea, Syria, Iran, we're seeing all that now, and it's not baked into the market just yet. So any flashpoints.
That's the question, right, Jerry, is how much of it, and I think people to some extent have adjusted at least their expectations from the election till now with the new administration about what can actually get done. As Michael says, maybe enough of this is not baked in. What do you make of it?
Well, I think that's absolutely right. I think you make a very good point, and that's why you saw the market sell off at the end of the week, right? People wanted to get out of the markets before the weekend hit because anything could happen. We've got North Korea out there, saber rattling. That seems very concerning. Issues across the globe, the mother of all bombs being dropped in Afghanistan. I think a lot of people out there, they're worried, they're concerned. But let's keep in mind here, the market is still pretty robust. And if you look at what happened at the end of the week, we saw some of those defense stocks actually playing pretty well.
Yeah, that makes sense. What were you going to say, Jason?
I was just going to say, I actually disagree. I think a lot of this is baked in. Trump has been saying for quite some time he's going to wipe ISIS off the face of the earth. These are the things that we want to see him doing. I think the Syria attack was also very precise and targeted. What I think would really impact the market is if we dropped a mother of all bombs on Obamacare. That's what I think would be finally.
But it's kind of an interesting. You say this is all expected. Talk is one thing, action is another, and that's what we haven't seen. Look, this week we started seeing action, and I think that's what made the big difference.
Right, but Jerry, we elected, or America elected, a president that's really a CEO, a developer. When the electricity goes out at Trump Tower, he doesn't call a speechwriter to figure out what to do.
Yeah.
He calls an electrician. Same thing with overseas. He calls his generals. What are we going to do with North Korea? And he's a pragmatist. He's a problem solver.
But to me, Michael, the issue, though, in terms of the profit and loss of American companies, as important as all of this is, and as much of a big news story as it is, may be the previous discussion, right, on taxes. And if you're not going to get a large reform package through, as someone like Grover Norquist says, well, who knows, we may not. And if we don't get Obamacare repealed and replaced first, he said, you heard what he said. He said it wouldn't be as good, right? It would be a watered down tax package, I think is how we'll say it.
I think there are high expectations, and with high expectations come disappointment. And what the market doesn't like is they don't like uncertainty. And right now, with the volatility index closer to 16, it could be ramped up to 20 pretty quickly.
Well, what are you assuming then? When you make your investment decisions, you're assuming what? That the corporate tax rate comes down, that we get infrastructure spending through? What assumptions have you baked into your own cake?
We like underfollowed and underappreciated stocks. So we like cheap multiples, we like low multiples. We're value funds.
Right.
That's what we focus on, bottoms up. So when we take the macro perspective, we are long our positions, but we're short the market because of what the potential volatility could have.
I was just, if the market sells off, 5% if we go into North Korea or we strike out North Korea, I think that's a buying opportunity. I think long run, I think there's a buying opportunity if the market sells off.
But what if we don't get tax reform done?
Well, I do, this is the thing that's been baked in for some time, that we would get tax reform, that Obamacare would be repealed and replaced, and those 20 taxes in Obamacare would go away, right? That's the thing that in many ways is also a huge risk to this market. Corporations have already decided, well, okay, I can reduce my costs here, here, and here. Right. I can expand here and there because I'm going to get a big, fat, luscious tax break.
I thought Grover was more pessimistic than he summed up his outlook as. In other words, when I was interviewing him, I thought, he says, this is not going to happen. And then at the end, he said, you know what, I think we can get it done. I mean, he said he thinks that they can get the Obamacare repeal and replace done.
Why can't the Republicans come together? It's essential that they stop acting like the party that's on the outs and start acting like the party that's leading the country.
Now, to bring on, I know this seems like a scattered discussion to some degree, but it is a scattered world. There's a million things going on at once, and they're all kind of cross currents. Michael, let me ask you about the geopolitics? Because I've been asking you so much about the economics, but your life experience would lend me to believe that you have some thoughts, at least, on what's happening overseas, North Korea and everything else. What do you make of it?
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of posturing that's happening right now with the new administration, with North Korea out there, with Russia out there, and Putin. I think there's a lot of testing right now with this administration. And what this administration is doing is they're showing a strong hand, and they're showing that they are willing to do what is required in order to regain the footing in the global market. And I think that with that is concern, because you have something like Kim Jong-un who's out there in North Korea. They're very volatile. We're not sure what their reaction is going to be. We don't know when they're going to stop.
You think that's their view of us to some degree, too, that they don't know there's an unpredictable nature to this new president as well, in terms of, and I don't know how that impacts it all, but...
Absolutely. Unpredictability, uncertainty, and I think that with increased elevated market multiples, I think that leads to risk.
I just want to add on to that,
quick,
just that the unpredictability is a good thing to your enemies, okay? And the flexibility that you're not an ideologue like Barack Obama was, and you dictate exactly when you're going to go into a country or strike a country.
That's right.
All right, good points all around. Thank you for coming in on Good Friday with the markets closed. We appreciate it. We'll see how things go next week.